Good morning.
Good morning.
Make sure it's coming through. Like it. All right.
All the good-looking people up there.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Sharp in color today.
Yeah, so we had, on Tuesday, we had some equipment failure here, so I had to rewire everything. This has a couple of ports, although I can take that off there and just have to do it a different way. So yeah, it's a little strange, the sound is a little strange, but
That's a good-looking picture. It is good picture.
that's it right there. Yeah, that's an old camera.
So what happened?
The HDMI matrix switcher just went bad.
That's what I would have guessed. Stop switching.
Stop switching, yeah. That's not a cheap piece of equipment either.
I had a phone call this week from a guy from Nigeria, and he said to me, "I've got all your passwords." I said, "That's wonderful. Let me get paper and pencil and we'll write it down."
Yeah, just like an Iowa State person. What happened to Iowa State this week? Yeah.
All works, so I went down with sprained ankles, so. Hey, how far did A&M make it, huh? Tell me that.
I'm just happy that Iowa State just didn't,
Well, Houston didn't make it very
Houston didn't either, yeah.
After they beat us, it was over. I thought they'd that was disappointing.
You can't think planted.
But Arizona, Bob
You can't think planted in your garden.
Yeah. I've been working 2 months.
All right. Well, I hope you all had a good week off. Didn't eat last week? Did you all just sleep in, or?
Oh no, we were up here making coffee.
You're making coffee. We got a couple folks at the end of service that are going to be new members. A couple of them are in this room. One right here, one back there.
Oh, I am?
One's over there.
Yeah.
You were hiding behind Sig. I was getting to my dad. Couldn't see it.
We still have to vote on that, isn't it?
No, we don't. It's happening. It is happening. All right. I thought we would do something a little different today. Why is it? Why the pessimism? Okay, so I figure, what is today in the church year? Pentecost, or that's not Pentecost. Palm Sunday, Pentecost. Pentecost is still ways away. Palm Sunday. And do you know what one of the traditions in a lot of churches are on Palm Sunday at the end of the service?
Collect the palms.
Okay, yes, there's the palms, and then use them, burn them, and use them for that.
Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday. Yeah, we don't do that. We buy our ashes from like good folks from Catholic Supply. I tried that to do that personally, but I can never get them black and as fine as they do. It's like, yeah, it takes a special technique and something like that.
We get certified palm ashes, or
They're from Catholic Supply, so I'll bet they're all right. They make good ashes.
so what's the other tradition that we do?
Another tradition is to read either during the service itself or at the end of the service, read the Passion narrative.
The what?
The Passion narrative. It's a long section of the Passion. And it is traditionally done at the end of Palm Sunday service as you go into Holy Week for the event. And there's a Matthew version, a Mark version, and a Luke version. There's a very short John version that can be used as an alternate. But I figure we just read through one or maybe all three of those, and yeah.
Because you love you some details, and I'm short on this one a little bit. What was the original meaning of that word, passion? What does it mean? Certainly not the one we think of today. But what are we talking about when we say passion in this context?
What do you think?
Well, I mean, if we tie it to the modern meaning and the old, an overwhelming love, because it was an overwhelming love for us that he would lay that kind of sacrifice, but that seems a little superficial.
I wouldn't say superficial, I'd say incomplete.
it be all of the suffering that he endured?
Yeah, it includes all of the from the time of the Last Supper up to the trials and the torture and the crucifixion. It includes all of that. So really, when it gets to the passion, it's not just a passion on the good side. There's passion on the challenging side too. It's all of the passion, but Christ's passion for us that He did this for us.
With all of that suffering, the Bible says it was the joy set before him.
Before the joy set before Him, endured the cross, putting His shame.
So it's just interesting that those
Well, it's the same.
Really.
It's the same kind of strange dichotomy that we get by calling Good Friday, right? It's who is it good for? Who is it the passion of? Those types of things. I don't know if you know the lectionary. Some of you may have heard that before, or pericopes. They're assigned readings for a Sunday, and most liturgical churches follow a lectionary. Many follow a Reformed or a Revised Common Lectionary. In other words, most of your liturgical congregations are going to have the same or similar readings assigned for a Sunday throughout the year. That's not the case all the time, and some of them they have some slight changes. The Lutheran lectionary is slightly different. For instance, we have readings assigned for Reformation Sunday. The Catholics don't have that for some reason, there's a 1-year lectionary and then there's a 3-year lectionary. And the lectionary usually includes an Old Testament epistle, a gospel, and a psalm. Sometimes it's a first lesson, second lesson, gospel, and psalm. But those are split up. So every 3 years, and most Lutheran churches use a 3-year lectionary. So you have series A, B, or C, and then you repeat. So your readings are going to be similar, but they're going to be off. So for instance, in Passion reading, series A is going to be based on Matthew, series B, Mark, and series C, Luke. So the readings are slightly different because they're from the different accounts. And we're in A, so we would be using A. But I figure we read through that, see what you'll take from it, and if there's time, we can read through the other versions as well. I'd ask if that sounds good, but that's what we're doing, so. This is going to be from Matthew 26, 1 through 66.
That doesn't work on its feet.
It will. It will. 1 through 66. When Jesus had finished all of these sayings, He said to His disciples, You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill Him. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people. Now when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to Him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment. She poured it on His head and reclined at table. When the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, Why this waste? This could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor. But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, Why do you trouble the woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went with the chief priest, and he said, What will you give me if I deliver him over to you? And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. From that moment, he sought an opportunity to betray him. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover? He said, Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. The disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at table with the 12. And as they were eating, he said, truly I say to you, one of you will betray me. They were very sorrowful and began to say to him, one after another, is it I, Lord? He answered, he who has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born. Judas, who would betray him, answered, is it I, Rabbi? He said, you have said so. As they were eating, Jesus took the bread, and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to the disciples, and he said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Jesus said to them, you will all fall away because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised, I will go before you to Galilee. Peter answered him, though all fall away because of you, I will never fall away. Jesus said to him, truly, I tell you, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said, even if I must die with you, I will not deny you. And all the disciples said the same. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane. He said to his disciples, sit here while I go over there and pray. Taking with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me. Going a little further, he fell on his face and he prayed, saying, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. He came to the disciples and found them sleeping. He said to Peter, you could not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, for the second time, he went away and he prayed, my Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. Again he came and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and he prayed for a 3rd time, saying the same words again. Then he came to the disciples and he said to them, sleep and take your rest later on. See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. While he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a great crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. The betrayer had given them a sign, saying, the one I will kiss is the man. Seize him. He came up to Jesus at once and he said, greetings, Rabbi. And he kissed him. Jesus said to him, friend, do what you came to do. And they came up, they laid hands on Jesus and seized him. And behold, one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand and he drew his sword and he struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place. For all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then should the scriptures be fulfilled that it must be so?" At that hour Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out as against a robber, with swords and clubs to capture me? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But all this has taken place that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples left him and fled. Those who had seized Jesus led him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had gathered. And Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards to see the end. The chief priests and the whole council were seeking false testimony against Jesus, that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At least two came forward and said, "This man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." The high priest stood up and he said, "Have you no answer to make? What is it these men testify against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I adjure you by the living God, tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and he said, "He has uttered blasphemy. What further witnesses do we need? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your judgment?" They answered, "He deserves death." And that's where that passage begins. Any thoughts on that?
It doesn't name this woman who anointed him, but
It doesn't name it in this one.
it does in one of the others.
I don't know if it names it, but certainly tradition has, it might be in one of the parallel, back we can read it, has that as Mary Magdalene. But I don't know that that's...
I mean, she obviously was aware of the scenario and the events that were about to occur, if she's anointing him for...
Well, did she know that she was anointing him for burial? I don't know that she did. Jesus said that she is doing it. I don't know if that was something she was aware of.
And I've always looked at it, Jesus said it was for his burial, but I've always kind of taken it myself that he was being anointed as king of all mankind, past, present, and future.
That could be, except for, I like that. However, it was alabaster and not oil, the oil that you would...
Anointing.
Yeah, and usually those anointings would be done on the head and through the beard and stuff rather than on the feet. But he certainly was anointed as ruler for past, present, and future. There is a lot of symbolism that is involved in that.
So there's the secondary symbolic meaning of the anointing. But assuming it was Mary Magdalene, which kind of doesn't make sense because where's she going to come up with that much money? She was part of the poor and all. But
Given to her,
what were her intentions and what were the traditional intentions of the day to come up and anoint someone before a meal? Was it just to honor them, or?
yeah, this certainly would have been to honor and the washing of the feet. I mean, that was something that servants would do because, you know, when you have sand on your feet are getting pretty dirty.
And something else that's different about this passage, it doesn't mention the miracle of Jesus healing the ear of the
Right.
soldier that
Yeah.
was cut off.
Yeah, that's in a parallel passage.
Another miracle.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And the other one we hear his name is Malchus.
Okay.
And the other thing is, Jesus clearly at the beginning of this tells the disciples that it's time for him to be crucified, and it doesn't sink in.
It doesn't sink in. And he tells them that they're going to abandon it. They do it just later that night. I mean, and of course, one of the parallel passages tells us who fled away naked. John. Now, he must have gotten some clothes because he was at the courtyard later then too. And I don't think he went to the courtyard naked.
What about when he said about Judas, that Judas would betray him, and there was, and like, kind of like, that's it. I mean, nobody said anything like, hey.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's interesting because, again, in one of the parallel ones, I think it's Peter motions to John to find out who it was, and John asks him, and it's as if Jesus is showing John who it was, but we're given no indication that they're like, oh, it's him, let's get him, or anything like that. So they still seem to be going forth ignorant of who it is, even though at least in one of the cases it seems like John should at least have known.
But, I mean, you look at it as John knowing, or whatever, like Jesus probably motioned to him knowing it, but with the calmness of Jesus of it happening, he's at peace with it, and
Yeah, is it peace or just resignation?
I mean, it's, I don't know, I always thought about, like, back to the future type thing, like, remember the time machine, would you go stop it, But we wouldn't have the blessings we have now if we did. Because it had to happen. So Jesus knew it had to happen, and all this, he was at ease with it happening. Might not be truly at ease, but he was,
He was resigned to the fact that this is the way that things are going to play. Because he says, I could call 12 legions of angels, but then how would it be fulfilled? Right? So he knows that this is the series of events.
I mean, can you imagine us as humans going through life, hey, December, 15, 20, 40 is your day that you're going to die. Well, we do everything we can to avoid that, not to say avoid that day, but everything we can to try and prolong it.
Or just prepare for it.
So.
Yeah, you brought up Back to the Future. Principal Strickland died.
He did.
Yeah.
So you're going, who's that?
A great character. So, in this passage, they don't get a lot into the detail of if this happened but not who, because Simon Peter isn't mentioned as the one who drew the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Is he mentioned as the one who will deny him 3 times, or is that just also kind of fuzzy of who's going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, he said, you will deny me.
But did he say it, did he mention Simon Peter, or did he say just one of you will deny me? Because
I think he said it.
He said it specifically. I mean, we all know that it is, but this passage is interesting in the details it leaves out.
We'll all fall away. Peter answered 33.
Okay.
Peter answered him. So yeah.
So he is mentioned there, but not as the one who drew the sword.
Right. Yeah. Now remember, who was Peter or Matthew's audience? That sometimes helps. I don't know that it helps as much here, but who the writer was writing primarily to. Matthew was writing to fellow Jews. Yeah, he wasn't writing to Gentiles. That's why Matthew starts out with all the genealogies. Right? So his focus is Jewish hearers. Where that's going to be different from Luke. Luke was writing to Theophilus. He had a person that he was writing to. He not to say that he didn't have in mind that others would read this at some point, but that wasn't the primary one. Mark had a different audience. So each of them, all right, so when people say, well, why does this have one thing and this have another? Well, they had different audiences. They were emphasizing different things. John has a different timeline. But John is a kind of a theologian. There are theological reasons why he's choosing it. So it's just an interesting thing. It's not contradiction. It's an intentional reason.
When you think about the audience, we all talk differently to the audience we deal with in life now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk to other pastors, you probably talk differently, or than when you talk to a new Christian.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like,
you're going to recall things differently. You know, if someone comes in here who from the street, someone that we don't know came in right now and caused a ruckus. You know, 30 seconds. 30 seconds caused some kind of ruckus and went out. And we were all asked to write an account of what happened. It would be different for each of our things. What we would emphasize, what we wouldn't, what we pick up on, what we would. They would all be slightly different. There would be a perspective aspect. I don't know why people think that it would be different, that God would use those different perspectives and understandings from the writers on how he would inspire and use them in writing.
Well, that's the thing about, Judas is, is it me? And he says, yeah, it's you. And, but then he tells them, you'll deny me 3 times. And they get all, worked up. When Judas is picked out as the betrayer, it's like nothing is done. I mean, nobody freaks out or.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think they were so involved in, it's not me, is it you? Is it you? That I don't know that it registered with them that Judas, did this and because even the parallel passage says that when he left, some thought he was going to take care of some other arrangements or something. So it didn't click with them.
It may have been a side conversation between Jesus and Judas.
Yeah, I think it was, what you were going to do quickly. I think that was a very close encounter here. I don't think it was something, hey, Judas, what are we going to do? It wasn't something like that because he had just did it. He was close by.
And he didn't deny it, though. I mean,
No, he didn't. He didn't deny it. Yeah, a parallel passage says, and Satan entered him. But this whole aspect of, well, maybe there was some hope, maybe there was some grace for Judas. I think the passage, it would be better that he would not be born. Because other scripture says that he was one doomed to destruction. I mean, that's pretty clear. No, because we never see him repent. We see him sorry for the way things turned out, but not actually repenting.
I mean, the disciples had all been with Jesus when, I think he walked through the hostile crowd, at Nazareth.
Yeah.
When he was in the synagogue and they were going to throw him over the cliff and he just walked through.
Yeah, I don't know if all of them were there for that, but yeah, I mean, they're witnesses to these things.
Right, and so Jesus was untouchable, and somehow Judas thinks that he can contravent that by betraying him. The other thing I wonder about, just idly, Jesus is in Gethsemane praying, and he said, if this cup can pass from me, Father, let it pass. And he's praying to God who said, this is my beloved Son, whom I'm well pleased. Think of the implications if God had said, okay, son, we're not going to go through this.
Yeah, it is staggering. I mean, it really kind of gets to the point of, what was the point of Jesus praying that? If he knew that this had to take place, if he knew this had, why even state that?
Because he was man as well as God.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right.
And he had to,
Yeah.
do everything that a man would do.
Yeah, I mean, so there is genuine fear and suffering. Not a fear that of the way things are going to turn out. He certainly knows that. But or maybe fear is not the best word. Anxiety. Sorrow. I mean, he had those emotions.
It was a wasted Jeffers. That plea.
Yeah, you hate to say Hail Mary. Yeah.
But that's true of us. I mean, as Christians, we know where we're going, but the process of dying
Yeah.
is something that we worry about.
Yep. Yeah, it's not usually death. Not the aspect of death, it's the process of dying.
Going back to Judas, what is made of from biblical scholars of his motivations? Because when you look at this this passage and the chronology of it is, I'm gonna die. Oh, well, if you're already gonna die, why not make a little coin off of it, right?
Yeah, no, because earlier, when I forget it was that there was, it mentioned that he had helped himself to the purse, as a treasurer, he helped himself to the purse whenever he wanted. But there was, I forget what there was a miracle or something that Jesus did. He showed some compassion on the poor or something, and it ticked him off. And it says at that point he sought an opportunity. And that's when he approached the leaders and stuff.
Because I've heard people talk about that he was part of a zealot community, and just deep down he harbored some sort of, resentment that the rabbi had gone off in this other direction.
Yeah, I don't think I.
But it's more basic than that, right?
I think it's more basic than that.
Human greed and where that can lead us.
In confirmation, we were taught that it was his greed.
Yeah, his greed and just that what Jesus was doing, his compassion, his life, his teachings was just too far for him to go.
I just thought Judas thought that they weren't doing enough for the poor. And
No, I don't think Judas. No, I don't think Judas gave a rip about the poor.
It wasn't doing enough for Judas.
Yeah, I think that's more likely.
Seems like I heard something that Judas was a zealot, had other friends that were zealots, and they believed that Jesus was going to free them from Roman rule, and they started realizing that this is not going to happen, and that then he turned against him.
At that point, it is such an interesting mix of ragtag folks that the disciples are. Right? I mean, because you have zealots, you have people like Matthew, tax collector, not loved by anyone, whose name was Levi, who was of the priestly tribe, and you have ones that grew up in Judaism. It's across the board. I imagine there were some very interesting and heated discussions that the disciples often had.
It goes back to the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. You see somebody walking, somebody have tattoos, purple hair, all this stuff, people want to look down at them. They could be the most Christian people in the world, but society looks down at them by their appearance.
Yeah.
And Jesus took 12 disciples that society looked down at and made them into being his chosen 12.
Yeah.
it's like Jason had just said before that even tax collectors today are not invited to too many parties.
Yeah.
But I said they're not liked.
He could have chosen amongst the most holy and the most knowledgeable in all of the area, but did he choose representatives that were more like the common man and woman?
In one case, the ones who were not as learned, I mean, that's not to say there weren't some who knew the scriptures and stuff, but time and time again we hear people amazed. This is usually after Jesus had already ascended. They're amazed at the way they're talking because they saw them to be common men, unlearned men, by the dialect that they had, by where they were from, that they were not highfalutin folk, right? And I think it's very interesting too that when we talk about the New Testament being written in Greek, it was written in Coney Greek. Coney is common. Now, there are some exceptions. Luke wrote in a higher form of Greek because he was writing for a specific person. He was a more learned person. But most of the Greek is very, I would say, visceral. It's just a common Vulgate. And that's what Vulgate means, common. It's not a highfalutin, lofty, oh dear, blah, 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 that's not the way that the New Testament is written at all. The large majority of it.
I think I've shared before that I've had friends who were told by their leadership
Well, yeah, so the question, it's not an untrue, but is a grossly incomplete statement. So when you say the Old Testament is not needed for what? You could say, by the same token, most of the New Testament is not needed. What is the point? What do you mean by needed? Needed for salvation? To know that Jesus is Lord? To know when no one comes to the Father but by Him? I give you a few verses that you need to know for salvation. Does that mean that all the rest is just, taking up space? No. It's all there. All Scripture is God-breathed and is used for teaching, rebuking, and training in righteousness. Right? I mean, God gave all of it for a reason. And you don't get the understanding of the New Testament without the Old Testament informing of it.
Well, Jesus Christ was just as impactful in the Old Testament as he was in the New Testament.
Well, that's true. The second person of the Trinity was certainly active in the Old Testament as well.
When I see those scriptures about Jesus really applying his humanness in the New Testament, to me, the one thing that Jesus wants me to know is he wants everybody. He wants to be accepted and acceptable to everybody, no matter what walk, no matter what color, no matter what, whatever.
Yeah.
So, when he has those times when he's praying to God and asking for those certain things and everything, he's trying to show, to me, he's showing me that he is relatable.
Relatable and patient.
That he understands.
Right? Yeah, it's that patience. Yeah. Because we can sit there and say, man, things are going to trash. Come, Lord, quickly. Right? But it's not the time. He wants more people to come to the knowledge of the truth. He is not slow as some are thinking, but patient, wanting all to be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth.
I mean, overall, I'm impacted by his godliness.
Yeah.
But, his humanness really just kind of flips the switch for me, and I get it. I mean, you've got to see.
That is the amazing thing of what the incarnation is. Right? It is not man part of the time, God part of the time. We're part man and part God. It's God 100%, man 100%. It is a totally unique thing that doesn't exist anywhere else in all of creation. And how does that work? I don't know. How Jesus as man is locally present, but as God is omnipresent. How does he as man grow in wisdom and stature, and as God be all-knowing? How does he thirst and hunger as man, but he's no sustenance as God? It doesn't make any sense.
And I don't need to know those things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. I mean, and that's why it's faith, right? Because if you can sit there and say, well, prove it to me, that's not faith. Faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. It has nothing to do with that.
And those are complex issues, but we don't even understand the simplest of those from how he operates. I can forgive your sin, and at the same time, so remove it from myself.
Yeah,
I don't remember myself that I will never know of it or remember it again. Yeah. And we live in a world of I can forgive, but I can't forget. Yeah. We can't even reconcile something as simple as that.
Yeah.
How are we? It's explaining calculus.
It blows the mind.
Yeah.
If you want, we can read through the other two versions. Yeah.
Picturing the scene of the Last Supper, this came to mind that Judas had to be close to Jesus. He had to be close to him in order to dip.
Yeah.
Which might mean that he would have an important position because he was next to the Lord. But we always have this picture in mind, the Last Supper, sitting at this long table.
Yeah. Because he's,
And usual way that they ate was reclining.
Right, yeah. It wasn't sitting on chairs.
Not on a table, at a table.
Yeah.
They were lying or else just sitting there eating.
Yeah.
And they like lying.
Yeah.
And reclining.
Yeah, talking about reclined table.
So that was, sharing the food. You can see how they could share that many per share that way.
Go long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, which puts us a different picture in our mind than the
Yeah.
long table, so.
Yeah, artist renditions of a lot of the stuff is very interesting. And especially when you look at it, you can always tell in so many of them when it was done. Because it takes on the characteristics of the surrounding culture and time that it was done in. Right? The dress, the background. I mean, you even see some of that in like some old westerns. Getting Back to the Future Part 3. Okay, when Marty goes back, and what does Doc have him dress as? Before back there, of what the old west is going to be like. And it's these duds that are just ridiculous. I mean, that no one in the West dressed like, but that's how TV portrayed it, right? And so that was the thought. Oh, this is the way that. Nah, that's not reality at all.
Clean in those westerns.
Yeah, right.
Because of our lifestyle and growing up and seeing how things are, it's hard for us to step out of that box. Because Jesus told Nicodemus, if you don't believe earthly things that I tell you, how are you going to believe heavenly things?
Yeah.
Because there's just things beyond our human knowledge that, how could God never have a beginning when everything we know of has a beginning and an end?
Yeah, Nicodemus, especially in the being born again aspect. Yeah. All right, do you want to look through the other two?
Yes.
Pastor, I thought, I heard a minute ago when y'all said young man ran away without his clothes. Somebody said John, or I thought that's what I heard. But everything I always looked at said probably Mark, because he wasn't one of the disciples. He was following behind.
Well, the John one is the shortest. I'm just going to look at, let's take a look. People.
Well, in Mark it says he was following behind. I only found one commentary that said possibly John. The rest of them said John Mark.
Well, John Mark would be Mark.
Yeah, that was not really a disciple, but just was a follower.
He was really young. Why was he naked?
Because they went to grab him and to flee, he threw off his clothes, so they're just.
Cloth on and it yanked it off, and then probably dressed quickly that day.
There you go, verse 51, and this is in Mark. The young man followed him with nothing but a loincloth around his body. They seized him, but he left the loincloth and ran away naked. No, that could have been Mark. I'd always thought that'd be. I don't know, some of your commentaries might have more on that. Anyway, okay, so we take a look at the Mark one here. And this goes through Mark chapters 14 and 15. It was now 2 days before the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. They said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar from the people. And while he was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he was reclining at table, a woman came with an alabaster flask of ointment of pure nard, very costly. She broke the flask and poured it over his head. Oh, well, there you go, Toby. There were some who said to themselves indignantly, why was the ointment wasted like that? This ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and given to the poor. And they scolded her, but Jesus said, leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. You will always have the poor with you, and whenever you want, you can do good for them, but you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. And when they heard it, they were glad and promised to give him money. And he sought for an opportunity to betray him. On the first day of unleavened bread, when they sacrificed the Passover lamb, his disciples said to him, where will you have us go and prepare for you to eat the Passover? And he sent off 2 of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. Wherever he enters, say to the master of the house, 'The teacher says, where is my guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' And he will show you a large upper room furnished and ready. There prepare for us." The disciples set out and went to the city and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he came with the 12. And as they were reclining at the table and eating, Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me." They began to be sorrowful and say to him one after another, "Is it I?" He said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who is dipping bread into the dish with me. For the Son of Man goes as is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born." As they were eating, he took the bread, and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to them and said, "Take, this is my body." He took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said to them, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I say to you, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God." When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away from me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee." Jesus said to them, "Even though they all fall away, I will not." Jesus said to them, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. He said emphatically, "If I must die with you, I will not deny you." They all said the same. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took with him Peter, James, and John, and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. He said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch." Going a little further, he fell on the ground and prayed, that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, "Abba, Father, all the things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." He came and he found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away and he prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy. And they did not know what to answer him. He came a 3rd time and he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It's enough, the hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." Immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with them a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. The betrayer had given him a sign, "The one I will kiss is the man. Seize him and lead him away under guard." When he came, he went up to Jesus at once and he said, "Rabbi," and he kissed him. They laid hands on him and seized him. But one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Jesus said to them, "Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to capture me? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." And they all left him and fled. A young man followed him with nothing but a linen cloth around his body. They seized him, but he left the linen cloth and ran away naked. They led him away to the high priest. All the chief priests and the elders and the scribes came together. Peter followed at a distance. Well, actually, I think we'll stop there on this one. And then the last one, the last long one, from Luke 21. Jesus looked and saw a rich man putting gifts into the offering box. He saw a poor widow with 2 small copper coins. He said, "Truly I tell you, this poor woman has put in more than all of them, for they contribute out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty put in all she had to live on. While some were still speaking of the temple, how it was adorned with noble stones and offerings, he said, as for these things that you see, the day will come when there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. They asked him, Teacher, when will these things be, and what will be the sign that these things are about to take place? He says, see that you are not led astray, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and this is the time at hand. Don't go after them. When you hear of wars and tumults, don't be terrified, for these things must first take place, but the end will not be at once. And he said to him, nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes in various places. Famines and pestilence, and there will be terrors and the great signs from heaven. But all of this they will lay their hands on, persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before all kings and governors for my name's sake. This will be your opportunity to bear witness. Settle it therefore in your minds not to meditate beforehand how you will answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be delivered up even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and some of you they will put to death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but not one hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your lives. When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, you know that its desolation has come near. Those who are in Judea, flee to the mountains. Those who are inside the city, depart. And let not those who are out of the country enter it. These are the days of vengeance to fulfill all that is written. Alas for women who are pregnant, for those who are nursing infants in those days. There will be great distress on earth and wrath against this people. They will fall by the edge of the sword and be led captives among the nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. There will be signs in the sun and the moon. I think we'll actually stop there. And then John 12:20 to 43. You can see Luke has a different take. He gets into some of the other stuff a little bit later. Those who went to worship at the feast, some were Greeks. So these came to Philip, who was at Bethsaida in Galilee, and asked him, Sir, we wish to see Jesus. Philip went and told him, Andrew. Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. And Jesus answered them, The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Whoever loves his life loses it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. If anyone serves me, he must follow me. Where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. But now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? It's for this very purpose I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven, I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. The crowd that stood there heard it and said that it had thundered. Others said an angel had spoken to him. But Jesus answered, The voice has come for your sake, not mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now will the ruler of this world be cast out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. He said this to show by what kind of death he was going to die. So the crowd answered him, We have heard from the law that the Christ remains forever. How can we say that the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is the Son of Man? But Jesus said to them, The light is among you for a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness overtake you. The one who walks in the darkness does not know where he's going. While you have the light, believe in the light, that you may become sons of light. When Jesus had said these things, he departed and hid himself from them. Though he had done so many signs before them, they still did not believe in him. So that the word was spoken by the prophet Isaiah, that must be fulfilled. Lord, who has believed what he has heard from us, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore they could not believe, for again Isaiah said, He has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, lest they see with their eyes and understand with their heart and turn and would be healed. Isaiah said these things because he saw his glory and spoke of him. Nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him. But for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. For they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. All right, pause there. Any thoughts on any of that?
So in the previous two, we quoted, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered. Didn't really know what that means, so I started looking it up, and it's a quote from
Isaiah, I think.
I think it was Isaiah. It was an Old Testament passage. Zechariah.
Zechariah.
13:7. And I didn't appreciate, if I understood it correctly, or ChatGPT explained it to me correctly, that, because it's just a nice handy place to go and say, what does this mean? But it doesn't always get it right.
Doesn't always get it right, yeah. Okay.
But he's talking about himself.
He's a shepherd.
I'm going to strike myself, but he doesn't.
I will be struck, and the sheep, and y'all are going to scatter.
Are going to be
Right.
yeah.
Well, they all knew who Jesus was, because he'd been in the synagogues and teaching and everything. I don't understand why Judas had to point him out. Was it just to make him...
Well, because they all forgot their hello, my name is stickers. Just because he's well known does not mean that, especially people like some of the guards and stuff, that they would recognize. And you want to be sure who you're getting. You want to be sure who you're getting. You don't want to make a mistake.
Was it just, wasn't it also to show the weakness of his disciples?
Well, it certainly did that.
Yeah.
And that was the purpose, I don't know. But and so why didn't they grab him when he was teaching in the synagogue?
Because of the uproar it would have caused.
Because of the uproar it would have caused, that's right. It would have been, because they would have had a riot on their hands because the people liked Jesus. They liked not just the healing and the things that he was doing, the things he was saying. That he was chastising the religious leaders. That, these religious leaders that were doing things that were being oppressive to the people. And Jesus is talking against that. Yeah, you go! It would have caused an uproar. So,
did the high priest, I'm sorry.
What is the meaning of the young man?
yeah, it's because by association, Peter, James, and John, and those around Jesus, these guards are coming against to get Jesus. They're wanting to take some of the followers too, or at least have them detained for questioning, whatever. And so they're trying to get away. This guy, they grabbed him. The only way for him to get away is to get out of those clothes. So they're holding on to his clothes, but he flees.
Did the high priest need Judas as an eyewitness in his testimony to make their case? Because what role was he playing this? Other than
Judas is only, they didn't. There's nothing that says that they wanted him or were going to use him as someone to testify.
So it's not like an undercover sting. We've got a guy on the outside that's going to point him out.
No, they already have lined up false witnesses. They're already going to do what they're going to do. Judas, his only job is betrayal.
Then why, if all of the people liked Jesus, and yet within days or hours they crucify him?
Well, it weren't the same people. Those were people that were best.
Well, yeah, I suspect there were some of the same people. But, when it says crowds, it is by nature ambiguous. So, who all it was, we don't really have that.
Well, we have this going on today. We have the protest groups that are being paid by people to be the protesters.
Sure. Yeah. True.
Or people who protest simply because to do anything different is a crime against the state.
Yeah, it could be that. But of course, it wouldn't be the state, it would be the religious leaders. All right.
Well, even in the scripture where it
Yeah.
fled.
Yeah, the disciples. Yeah.
Well, that's a little, did they flee because they were afraid they were going to take them?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
But yet, wouldn't you be trying to protect them?
Well, that's the irony, right? That's the whole irony, especially of Peter, when he says, "Look, even I will die for you," right? And then runs away. And he didn't just run away there, but he says, "Even if I have to die with you, I will not, leave you, I will not deny." And what's the first thing that he does? Falls asleep 3 times.
Right.
Right? That's the first. Peter, you couldn't even, you're going to die for me, but you can't even stay away from me? And then he flees. He does show one shining example of cutting off the ear of Malchus, right? One heroic little thing, but then he runs away. And then when he comes into the courtyard, he's cowering. He's cowering away. It's like, look, I'm telling you, I don't know him. I tell you with an oath. Yeah. All right, we gotta stop. Let's go with the benediction. Lord bless you and keep you. Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. Lord look upon you with favor. Give you his peace. Amen. God bless and have a good week. Yep.